decisions, find the right choice. Know yourself better, find your own voice. It's okay if you need help today, cause everybody needs a little push. From the pushy broad, from the Bronx, New York.
Good morning and welcome, Transformation Talk Network listeners. My name is Ellen Stewart and I am the Pushy Broad from the Bronx. Welcome to my show, Recovery Recharged, where we share advice and support from experts in addiction and recovery. And on some very special occasions, experts in a field that interests everybody, and that is career coaching and the current job market, which we're all very concerned about in the beginning of 2025. So the Pushy Broad went back to her expert, her collaborator, the woman that's been with me since 2021. Yes, right, Melanie?
I know it doesn't seem like it's been that long, but
It has been, but we're both the same age. Melanie comes to me at least 2, 3 times a year because she is my expert on job market and what's out there, and better than that, how to go get it. So we are navigating the future. This is the 2025 job market insights and shifting tides for sure. So Melanie Mitchell Wexler is someone that I turn to all the time because she brings over 20 years of recruiting and staffing experience. She started career coaching in 2017. She really helps people find meaningful and fulfilling lives, not only in what they do, but how they go about doing it. So I have brought her back to the Pushy Broad Show today, and I am thrilled to welcome Melanie Wexler. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be here. So I'm excited to be able to have this conversation with you and everybody today.
As soon as all of the federal layoffs started, the one person you're the one person that came into my mind. It's like, oh my God, I have to get Melanie back on the show because there's just so much to navigate and it's so difficult to comprehend. So let's just start with something broad, okay? Describe a little bit the overall job market for 2025. And are there any industries we should be looking at for maybe rapid growth?
Yeah, so the best way I can describe this particular job market is simply it's crazy. It's just crazy.
Okay.
Nobody knows heads or tails. And I know you might be sitting there going, well, how the heck is this supposed to help me? First, I think it's important to know everybody's feeling it. It's not, it is a sentiment across the board. So that there's this is a roller coaster and everybody is on this roller coaster, okay? Whether we like it or not, everybody is on it together. Whether you're looking for a job today, tomorrow, or you've been in the job market. So I think it's really important to understand that first and foremost. And then what are we seeing industry-wise? We are seeing tech, I think, starting to make a little bit of a rebound. Tech has, again, been up and down. Tech tends to be an indicator of what we expect to see. And again, it didn't go rhyme or reason. Tech went down earlier in the year. It's been up and down before that as well. And we were starting to see other areas like accounting and finance was starting to really have high growth. We're not seeing as many accountants with CPAs, things of that nature. So there's a shortage in that market. So it didn't, again, no rhyme or reason, but we are, continuing to see healthcare. Tech is starting to rebound. And we are seeing some stagnation, I think, in kind of what we call the blue collar work. In terms of that, there's still a lack of jobs in hospitality. There's still a lack of candidates for those, so we're still seeing shortages when it comes to that. But the uneasiness of this all is that hiring teams, companies don't know what to expect with all the things that are happening in this world. There's a lot of uncertainty, so there's a lot of hesitation to, oh, I know I need to hire, but wait, what if this happens? Or what if this happens? And so there's just a lot of uncertainty right now. But that all being said, people are still being hired. That's the weirdness of this whole like market with all this craziness. I went through 2 recessions as a recruiter. We're not in a recessive market. We're not in that. And knock on wood, we don't get there, because I think this is not how this market is responding. So that's a positive thing, but it is a tough market. And so some of this is patience, but also a lot of it is strategy. A lot of it is strategy in terms of how you are going to approach presenting yourself, pushing yourself out of this, and it's going to push you out of your comfort zone. That I can guarantee you.
Okay, so you said a lot.
Yeah.
And I want to break it down a little bit because there's some very important things. First of all, we really appreciate the fact that we all need to know that we're all feeling stress around this. Our current news situation is that every single day we see companies laying off massive amounts of people, the federal government jobs, all different agencies are moving towards tightening their belts. We see it everywhere. The optimism that you bring is the fact that people are still hiring. Okay, so that makes it very hopeful for us. And the fact that we are not yet in a recession, hopefully we won't go there, and the job market is responding as if we are not in a recession. Okay, so all of those things are good. But we're going to talk a little bit more about the strategy because that's the kind of stuff that you bring to the table as a career coach. And Melanie is available for hire. Okay, so you can see her stuff on the screen. Melanie, just give us your website so people can go real quick, and then I want to ask you the next question.
Yeah, thank you. It's findsucceedachieve.com. So www.findsucceedachieve.com.
Great. Also, in case I didn't mention this, this is a call-in show this morning. So if you have a career question, a pressing, urgent career question, who better to answer it than an experienced career coach this morning with the Pushy Broad. You can find us at 800-930-2819. Please make sure we're going to be here for the half hour. Call, ask us a job question. Melanie is here to answer it. So one of the things we have to do to strategize, I'm sure, is to find out exactly what skills and qualifications one would need to prioritize as we go into this competitive market. So let's look at that first in terms of strategy. What do people need to have on their resume?
The big thing that I'm going to stress is you need to understand specifically, and this has actually been a topic I've spoken about all this week. In fact, I've done a couple of things on Monday and Tuesday, and the theme here is what I call your unique value proposition. It is what you bring to the table. And I don't care if it is the entry-level job to the C-suite executive. Everybody brings something different and unique, whether you are serving in a restaurant to working in an office. Your approach is not like somebody else's. And that's the thing that we need to start seeing on resumes in a professional summary. But more importantly, we need to see that in action down in the resume with how you've achieved this. What have you done? You need to get very specific and very almost granular, in terms of what that actually looks like from your perspective, from your career. So what are your achievements? What have you succeeded with? What challenges have you overcome? That's what's going to set you apart from they're in a competitive market when we're looking at people that are very, it's coming down to nuances in interviews where we've got equally qualified people. We like both people. So how do we determine it? It's really going to be what sets you apart is your approach. And everybody has an approach. Sometimes I get pushback from people is like, oh, the job I did, it wasn't anything special, or I didn't do anything special. Yes, you did. You have to own that. And I really want people to lean in on that because that also helps us build confidence in ourselves remembering the things that we've done and how we've achieved them. And I think again, going back, I'm really big on mindset too. When we're navigating a crazy job market like this, you need to have a strong mindset, and knowing what the value you bring to the table is what's going to attract the right opportunity to you.
Okay, so it's not only what you have done, but how you have done it is what you're trying to say here. And that is a wonderful thing. So you need to be a little bit more creative in your resume. You need to really show that you have achieved something, how you have achieved it, and what the results were, because this makes it a really interesting read. All right, so that's one of the ways to strategize. Now, how do we face and how is it going? Because everybody's into AI and automation, and everybody is looking at their resume and throwing it into an AI program, you know, ChatGPT or Copy AI or whatever, which are fabulous. And first of all, how do you feel about throwing your resume into something like that? And what's happening now in this market and how is it affecting our job search?
So I actually do like AI tools. I just want to preface this. That being said, we have to understand how to use these tools. Okay. The thought process, and I get people again, they tell me this, well, I can just throw my resume in there and it'll create a resume for me. Yeah, it will. I'm not going to deny that. So, hey, why do you need me? Here's the reality. You put in what you get, what you put in is what you get out. So you have to be very nuanced when using these tools. You have to think about the tone that you want. Does it understand your voice? Also, checking information. Some of these tools will change if it's vague in the context. So if you don't have those metrics and those qualifications listed very succinctly, it will maybe create those for you. And you don't want to misrepresent yourself. So you have to go through these with a fine tooth comb. It's not as simple as like, put it in and here it comes. Voila, I'm hired. It still needs to have your voice. I just did a course with a company. I did multiple courses with a company. We addressed AI. We showed you how to use AI tools. But one thing that I stressed as the instructor for these courses was simply this. What is your voice? Are you still showing up in your resume and all of your materials, in fact? Because the reality is, I'm not hiring your resume. I'm hiring you. And yes, your resume is a tool, but you are the person that needs to implement that tool and how you use it. And so play around with these tools, but also research and study them. I think that is also the important thing, is understanding it's not a simple push it in and push it out kind of thing. You've got to massage it. You've got to like edit it. So it is still time consuming. It's not that as I wish it was. I mean, I wish it was easy. We just put it in, put it out. That'd be great. It's not that simple. These tools are evolving and we need to evolve with them.
Of course. But it's a really good way to get started. Sometimes when somebody puts a CV together, it's so daunting. It's like, where do I start? What do I do? So jot some stuff down. It's really easy in a Word document. You can dictate to the Word document. You don't have to be that involved. You can use the tools that are available in tech today to make it you. But even when you do anything else, if you know anything about AI, it says on the bottom to use your brand voice. And basically, that's exactly what it is when you craft a resume. It's your brand. You have to stand by it. So you can't just produce it and say, oh, here it is. I'm not even going to check it. So use the tools wisely. Terrific. All right. So moving on in terms of strategies, again, are we really seeing a shift post-COVID of a combination of work from home and work on the job situations? Or are old-fashioned people thinking you still have to be in the office? Is there a fight there? Are we moving towards a hybrid situation truly? Or is everybody back in the office? What's going on?
I do think we are still seeing a little bit of a hybrid situation. However, I will say this. I do see a lot of my clients recently being willing to go back into the office and not as resistant as maybe a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, I could be on the phone with potential clients. Absolutely not going in the office, not, not going to happen. Now I'm seeing more willingness. I do think there is a longing for that partnership, that having those, coworkers with you.
Right.
Truthfully, I think if you're starting off in your career, you're fairly, new, younger, you're entry level. I personally think I can't imagine working from home and remotely in that environment, to be very honest. I don't know that I would have been as successful as I was early in my recruiting career had I not. I mean, truthfully, recruiting I could easily do remote. I really could. But that teaching, that learning, that being able to communicate with my partners and my team really helped shape me. And so I do think like you need to kind of be open. Obviously, we have circumstances that may prevent us from being able to have that, and that's okay. But there are still opportunities out there for remote, fully remote. There's still a lot of companies out there that are fully remote as well. So there is a mixture. It is definitely, it's not a one-sided, like, oh my gosh, because I think there's a fear that we were going back into the office 100%. That's not the case. It is definitely, I don't know if it's 50-50, but there's definitely a hybrid of the two that's existing.
Okay, well, I also find that from a coaching perspective, my clients that I talk to about corporate politics and diplomacy and all of those things, I also find there's a psychological factor to going back to work. Can you handle the discipline of staying home and actually being productive? Some people are more productive at home. Most of my jobs were having a home office, so I am used to the discipline of going into my office, which is maybe 3 feet from where I sleep, and really putting in a very, very productive day. But some people need the structure of a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, or the likes of that. So try to find something and be honest with yourself as to how you get your most productive day, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, we're not all built the same. I mean, that's the reality of it. It took me a while when I transitioned from a corporate office job into coaching. It was honestly, it was hard for me in the very beginning. That's why I would have 1 or 2 days where I just literally didn't have calls, but I would go sit at a Starbucks all day. Just because I needed people and the sounds around me. And then the pandemic hit. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I can't go to Starbucks. So I've had my own transitions in this where I now can, for the most part, be very structured, where I'm not necessarily, I missed having a team around me when I first started. I truly missed that. And it was hard. So it's not an easy thing, but I think you, again, understanding your job search and what you need is really important in determining where you're going to apply and the types of opportunities you're going to look for. It's not there's no cookie cutter recipe here.
Okay, I know we could talk about everything for hours and hours, and we only have 30 minutes, so I'm going to go to some rapid fire stuff just to make sure we get some of the important questions covered. Remember, we have a call-in show, 800-930-2819. Get your opportunities in. We're on the air for maybe 6 more minutes, and I'm going to have Melanie back, and maybe we'll do an hour-long show. If you want that, just let me know that you want it. First of all, a couple of rapid fire questions. Is LinkedIn still the preferred way to find jobs and go on interviews and do those searches? Is LinkedIn the #1 way, in your opinion?
I am a LinkedIn junkie, so I am going to say yes. It is a great tool to use in your job search, and and there's so much to be found there. So absolutely, it should be a tool in your toolbox.
Okay, so can you give us an idea of about how long it's taking your clients with a decent resume to land a job? Are we talking weeks, months, years? What are we talking about?
We are talking months. I would say on the good side, 6 months. On the longer side, we're hitting 9 months, sometimes a year. The higher up you are, the longer it is taking. So we are seeing that.
Interesting. You just said something very interesting. Let's go back and talk about this a second. The higher up you are, the longer it's taking because there were many more candidates applying. What?
More candidates. We are seeing a little bit of attrition in the white collar job market, and so there is more competition in that higher level. More competition in terms of active job seekers versus and passive job seekers. Longer time to make decisions because there's higher salaries. A lot of people have to be involved in the decision making. Lots of factors go into this. And so is it the right business decision to bring in somebody at a higher level? You know, could we be doing this job at the job of like 2 people possibly, you know, so lots of decisions happening there. So knowing the higher you move up that ladder, the longer the job search. And that has always been the case, but added in today's market, it is just taking an extra, I would say anywhere from 3 to 6 months.
Okay, fair enough. All right, another rapid fire question. All of the federal government layoffs, right? Workers into the workforce like never before. What should we be watching out for? How do we navigate this? How is it going to affect everybody else?
First, understand that this does affect everybody else. That a lot of people in the beginning were like, oh, well, like, how does this affect me? It does affect a lot of people because it also affects other businesses that were doing business with those companies that experienced the government contractors that were experiencing business with that. We're now seeing this come into the private sector. For those employees, we now have, again, we're adding more competition to the market. So how are we going to separate ourselves? So there is a trickle down effect when we see the layoffs happening in the government because these people come back into the job market and we need to be able to respond to that. And I think, again, yes, there's more competition, but understanding that this isn't just happening in Washington, D.C. as well. We're talking there's federal offices throughout the entire United States. Every city has the federal office of some sort. Social Security, IRS, there's offices everywhere. So it's not just in DC, it's also happening. It could be happening in your hometown.
Okay, so again, very short time here. Because of all of this and the recent news situation, do you foresee shifts in hiring practices from companies, especially regarding diversity, inclusion, and equity?
We do know that the DEI space has been, I'm going to use the word it feels like it's been decimated. What I think is going to happen I think it is important to understand the reason some companies abandon the DEI is because some of their work is tied to government contracts. And so if they had it on policy, they would lose those contracts, thus impacting their staff. So understanding why some of these private companies have abandoned this practice. That being said, I have a feeling we are going to continue to see this in hiring, being proactive in what we call the DEI space, but I don't know if we'll call it DEI. That's been the only obligation that the government has placed on some of these policies is we won't support you if you have this policy. Well, it doesn't, if it's called a certain thing. Doesn't mean you can't have the policy. You just may not call it a policy. So that's what I think is going to happen where it's still happening behind the scenes. We're just not going to talk about it.
Okay. All right. So we have about, I don't know, 30, 45 seconds here. I need you to give us the hope. I need you to give us the positive transformation. Where should we be going? What's the hopeful side for 2025?
Here's what I'm going to say. Don't do this alone. Okay. Network like crazy. Put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to ask for help because where you won't succeed is by trying to do this alone. Find other people that are looking for jobs. Ask what is working for them. Ask your own personal network. Even if you're a little embarrassed and you're like, hey, I've been unemployed for months and it's embarrassing and I maybe feel a little shame. Don't, because you need others to help support you. I call it activating your network. Get people to help be looking out for jobs for you. That's the biggest thing is don't do this alone. Don't think you have to do this alone. There is no shame in a layoff. There is no shame in being unemployed. You can land your job. Get as many people on your team as possible to go out there and help you.
Fantastic, Melanie. As always, I want you back again. We'll do it again in September when the
Yes.
job market picks up again. This is Ellen Stewart, the pushy broad from the Bronx, saying number one, shout out to my brand new great nephew, Leo Alexander, and his parents, Jonathan and Erica. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. This is Ellen Stewart, the pushy broad from the Bronx, saying thanks for listening. And remember, everybody needs a little push.
From the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York.